my mentality was to win at all costs, and pull, push, yank, whatever to get everybody on the same page.
I just took on a challenge of going and trying to make things happen for myself.
When I first started this long road of basketball, knowledge and education, I always considered it to be just a game. I never was intrigued by the business. That never drove me into the game. What drove me into the game was the idea to play the game as a livelihood, as a profession, and don't have to work, don't have to do this, blah, blah, blah. I enjoy the game. But once I got into that, and then you start seeing the business around, it never consumed me. It was a part of it, but it never consumed me. What consumed me was being the best basketball player I could be.
Did you have any idea that it could be like this?
No. And if that was the case, if it was something that I probably was chasing, I would have never gotten it.
You never got it. Because, a lot of kids think they're going to be like you.
That's the whole point. If you chase something, then sometimes you never get it. If you put forth the work and all the attitude, next thing you know, it's bestowed upon you.
Wow. That's terrific.
And every day I try to play it as hard as I can when I'm playing. And if I didn't play basketball for profession, I'd probably play 126 games anyway, so it really didn't make a difference.
The love of the game is something that either you have or you don't. You either love the game for what it's about, not for what it provides. A lot of times I think today's athletes, they love the game for what it provides instead of what it is.
I overcome a lot of expectations. A lot of people didn't feel that I could go to Division I school and do so well. Everyone was telling me, my principal told me to go to the Air Force Academy so that once I finished school, I got a job after school. And I didn't listen to him.
How did you handle that most difficult of things for any youngster coming out of a fairly poor environment? So much money so quickly.
Well, I had the perennial guidance to kind of, that oversaw a lot of the things that I was encountering, the different agents, negotiating with the agents and negotiating with the contracts, the financial support or security that I really needed at that time, until I was old enough and mature enough to see where I was going and deal with what was happening to me. I think the biggest thing about what I've gone through is that I could have never learned these experiences going through a classroom. Living through it is a whole different experience than the classroom could ever teach me.
You set your own expectations and you live up to those, but your expectations are going to be geared to what people feel you can accomplish.
For the first time, the Bulls don't have this, they don't have that.
Yeah, that's motivation. If it's not, then you certainly need to look in the mirror. But that's a sense of motivation. You got to have some inner motivation too. You want to be successful. It's a long season that you started off trying to end the season with a win. That should never deteriorate. But other things come in with the same type of intensity in terms of motivation. Things that we have accomplished cannot be refuted at all, and a loss doesn't erase it all. I think, we end the season, with the win, then we make sure that our objectives are met in the course of the year. And, if it so happens, and it's not meant to be that way, we don't look at the season and say, well, it was a wasted season.
There who think if Michael Jordan loses, he's not going to know what to do because he's never lost an NBA Finals before.
That's true. I had never lost. But I can accept losing with a learning experience, that things were not meant to be for Michael Jordan this time. I don't look at it in the sense that it would drive me nuts. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I am in some ways being greedy because I want to continue to win, But that's not all so bad. That, everybody wants to win. The object of competing is to win. But being that you've won in the past, can make losing acceptable in some respect. I always feel I've always had over my opponent is that they don't know what to expect on a certain day. As soon as they know what to expect, then I lose the edge that I feel I have. But being that they don't know, that's the edge that I like to have.
You've got to understand that you really don't have anything to prove anymore.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean, if I feel that way, then why am I competing? It's always going to be in the back of your head as an appetite to prove something, because that responsibility has been given to you as an individual, and you're always going to have to live up to it. Certain responsibility, not everything, but the admiration of people for your sport is enough to say that I have to live up to what their admirations are all about, and there's bad comments out there too from every opposing gym that I go into, but for the most part, when people look at the game and the way I play, they have certain visions about how I should play it. Those are my responsibilities that I have to live up to. And I would always have those feelings as long as I'm playing the game of basketball. That drives me more so than anything.
For 9 years, you could look up in the stands at the onset of a game and see your dad. How was it when you could step onto a court and not see your dad?
It was tough. I mean, I had a tough time getting off the plane in Indiana, because I knew he wasn't with me physically. Mentally, I knew he was with me. I think I stayed an extra 45 minutes on the plane. I just couldn't get off. I had a tough time getting off. I didn't know if I could do it. I had to build up strength within myself to pursue life after James Jordan, in an arena that he was so much a part of me. I'm thankful that I had him for 31 years, that he taught me so much to move forward and past tragedy and sadness and downtime, down things, negative things in my life. If I hadn't had that education, I'm pretty sure I'd still be mentally broken apart. But he taught me so much to turn a negative into a positive that, in the wake of his death, I've been able to, turn that and say, instead of, having so much anger towards the people who caused this death, but to turn it to a point where, hey, this guy was with me for 31 years. He taught me so much. He's inside me. I just got to move forward, and I cannot let anger overtake what he's taught me.
Well, it's a lot of things about my lifestyle that I truly don't like, but I've come to accept because I've stepped into the form that I have to deal with it. There's so much speculation about things that are totally untrue, but you have to deal with it, and you have to let it roll off the back and deal with it. And you learn not to bring it too much to focus because it's not worth the headache.
I really don't have regrets. As soon as you look back in your history and you come up with something that you feel like you want to change, something else has to change. Disappointment to me, to win, you got to lose. To be successful, you got to have something that's not successful. To be happy, you got to have disappointment. I think all of those things have evolved and happened to make me who I am and understand the benefits and the privileges I have for being who I am.
You would assume that everybody had the same mentality as I had, and that every day you're the first one in the gym, last one to leave. You live within the moment. You strive for perfection each and every time you step on the basketball court. But unfortunately, everybody don't have that same mentality. And if they did, then it makes my job so much easier. It's like looking at a mirror of 11 or 12 people, and unfortunately, the world is not made that way. Sometimes you have to push, pull, do whatever you need to get over that hill, and the gratification is always going to be in the work. And once the work is done and you see where the achievement has been met, so yeah, I wish, I could have, laid back and enjoyed it as much as everybody else, but that didn't guarantee us success. That didn't say we're gonna win. So I had to do what I had to do. I know at that time they hadn't won. A lot of those guys have never won in terms of the world championship or something to that magnitude. So I knew it was gonna take some learning for them to understand that. That's where my role became very vital, to lead and to give them that, that knowledge that they need. For us to be successful, someone had to do that, especially from a leadership role. When I say I led based on, physically, I get out there, first one there, last one to lead, work on my skill set, blah, 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 listen to what the coach, try to, do whatever the coach is asking. That was the leadership that I wanted everyone to see, and then reinforce it with my voice when I felt the necessary need to do so. If I were to change my personality back, to something totally different, I wouldn't be who I would have been. I don't think we would have had the same successes. I think a lot of players probably wouldn't have been the same in terms of their perspective. The thing is that I think it was needed in some respect, and I think our success illustrates that.
So one thing my parents taught me very well is, don't wear your reputation, don't wear your accolades, don't wear your personality on your sleeve. Let it happen, let it be you. It is who you are. Don't hide from it, but don't wear it, rub it in people's faces.
Not everybody who is an athlete, just because you're an athlete or just because you're famous, doesn't mean you deserve the title, but I think you do. You're the classiest act I know.